I know this sounds insane and fake, and if you do not believe me, that is all right. But if you would like to hear me out, please give your thoughts on what I could have possibly stumbled upon the other night. I am a 21-year-old girl, and my two friends, Mason and Emily, are the same age. We are always hanging out with each other when we are not busy with work and other responsibilities. We went to the same kindergarten through 12th grade school together, met in 6th grade, and have been inseparable ever since. Our school is one gigantic building, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. We live in a very rural county, so our towns are bare and there is not much to see besides farms and drive-through coffee places. During the summer, the school sat basically deserted, with nobody coming in and out except occasionally in the mornings to prepare for the upcoming year in September. I would see the occasional family set up on the elementary section of the building, taking advantage of the empty playground and letting their children play while I drove past to get to my job. There were sometimes people also taking advantage of our school's walking and running track, but it was not common. Other than that, this place was basically void of activity. Being graduated and into our young adult years, we obviously had not been back to the school for any reason. It was about 10:15 in the evening, and my friends Mason, Emily, and I were all sitting in Mason's car in a mostly empty gas station parking lot, eating snacks we had purchased there. It is not that important, but all three of us are goth, which is part of why we are so close, and why we enjoy the creepier things in life. So when Mason suggested we drive around the back roads where all the deserted homes and cemeteries were, Emily and I happily agreed. Emily and I loved to point out the beautiful, neglected Victorian homes, imagining what we would do with them if we had money. I only bring this up because we enjoy the more unsettling things in life, and none of us are easily unsettled by peculiar or unexplainable events. Especially Mason. I had seen him watch horror movies without so much as a muscle moving on his face. He was nearly impossible to scare, as was Emily. It would take more than a jump scare or a creaking floorboard to put them on edge. We spent about half an hour looking at homes and headstones in the cemeteries before heading back to the main road and to Emily's apartment, where we planned to sleep over. It was Emily's suggestion that we stop at our old high school and creep around for old time's sake, so we did. Mason pulled into the empty parking lot, and we all got out to explore the high school and middle school sections. We told stories and reminisced about our time there, really emphasizing how much we hated it. Emily and I went to the middle of the building, where the cafeteria for both the middle school and high school was, and stared into the giant window. All we saw in the dark were stacked chairs and tables stored neatly in one corner. The only visible light came from appliances left plugged in, and a few small recessed lights in the ceiling. Mason had gone to the other side of the building to peek into the window of our old homeroom, which we thought nothing of, since we live in a mostly safe area. Amongst all the posters on the walls of the cafeteria about nutrition and other topics, something below them suddenly caught my attention. An intense, dark, crimson-red color stood out in the low light. I realized the cloth was covering a human figure. It was impossible to tell if it was a man or woman, but I knew it was a person. A person wearing a dark red cloak, standing there, with arms sticking straight out at their sides, and head aimed toward the floor. They had a hood over their head, so I could see no face. I was terrified, feeling my stomach churn with dread. I shook Emily's shoulder and whispered for her to look. She was confused at first, but went silent as she saw what I was talking about. "What the fuck is that?" she whispered, not taking her eyes off the hooded figure. Our horror and curiosity was interrupted when we suddenly heard Mason yelling and his footsteps fast approaching along the side of the building. We could not tell what he was saying, but we stood up from where we crouched. Suddenly, Emily screamed, grabbing my arm so tightly that I felt every fingertip pinching my veins. The shriek that came out of her was like nothing I had ever heard before. Pure fear. She began dragging me away from the window, and it was only when I looked up that I realized the hooded person was standing right behind the glass. Their head was still tilted down, pressed against it, and I still could not see their face. I too began to scream and scramble upright, trying to run. Since we are goth and insist on wearing black dresses that are far too long, I was tripping, trying not to stumble over my dress and platform boots as we sprinted to Mason's car. Emily was in tears by the time we got in, and Mason peeled out of the parking lot so fast that his tires squealed on the pavement. We sped down the empty main road, still freaking out and repeatedly yelling, "What the fuck? What the fuck was that?" After a few minutes of incoherent rambling, Mason finally got out what he had seen at the school. I saw 3 people inside. They had strange robes on and were lined up against the wall with their backs facing out. I suggested we call the police to report possible intruders, but my friends pointed out that what we were doing was sketchy. We live in a small town where everyone follows God, guns, and country, and we doubted anyone would believe us or side with us. My only guess was that it was some kind of cult. But what were they doing inside a school? None of us got any sleep that night. I told my family, but they think I was being dramatic or trying to scare my younger siblings. I was near tears before my parents half-heartedly validated my concerns. I have not gone back to my old high school since, and I never will.